I never expected a single notification to ruin my night, but there it was, blinking at me on my phone. A message from my aunt, the one who always pretended to be sweet while secretly feeding the family's gossip machine. I opened it, expecting a simple birthday greeting or maybe a video of my niece dancing. What I got instead made my stomach turn. It was a video of my own family, my parents, my cousins, and even my so-called favorite uncle, sitting in the living room, laughing and joking about me. But it wasn't harmless teasing. No, in that moment, the truth hit me like a hammer. They called me their walking ATM. I watched, frozen, as my father chuckled about my latest bonus at work, my mother smirked while counting the months since I last visited, and my sister rolled her eyes at what they called my financial generosity. Every word, every laugh, felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I had spent years working tirelessly, saving, helping whenever I could, thinking I was part of a family that loved me. But here it was, all laid bare. I wasn't loved, I was exploited. I stared at the screen for a long while. Part of me wanted to storm over, scream, demand explanations, but another part, a colder, darker part, whispered that patience and planning were stronger than anger. Revenge isn't about hasty punches, it's about precision, and I realized I had an opportunity to make them regret every mocking word without lowering myself to their level. I started small. First, I documented everything. Screenshots, copies of messages, proof of the financial support I had given over the years. I needed to be methodical, no one likes being attacked blindly. Then, I observed their habits. They were careless in their assumptions, overconfident, always boasting about money they didn't earn and mocking me for what I did. This arrogance was my advantage. If they truly thought I was just a wallet, they wouldn't see me coming. The first step of my plan was to expose their hypocrisy publicly. I didn't want to humiliate them in a way that could easily be ignored, like calling them out directly. No, I wanted them to feel the sting of losing control, of their secrets and lies being revealed to the world. I created anonymous accounts, carefully pieced together posts that mirrored their conversations, highlighting how they treated me versus how they presented themselves to outsiders. I made sure the content was relatable and subtly humorous, so that anyone reading wouldn't immediately suspect it was based on my personal life. Meanwhile, I started planting seeds of doubt within the family itself. A misplaced comment here, a casual question there, all designed to make them paranoid about who knew what. They began second-guessing each other. My aunt, who had sent the video by mistake, started apologizing and overcompensating in ways that seemed suspicious to the others. I watched quietly, smiling behind the screen, as the first cracks began to form in their fragile unity. I also contacted a few distant relatives I knew weren't as influenced by my immediate family. I didn't ask for help, I simply shared stories, small incidents of how they had treated me unfairly. The goal wasn't to gather an army, it was to create the illusion that I had allies and knowledge they couldn't control. When I sensed their anxiety rising, I knew it was working. The most satisfying part, however, was how they continued to underestimate me. My sister bragged about her new apartment, completely ignoring the fact that my recent bonus could have bought half the building. My father made jokes about my thriftiness, not realizing that every calculated move I made now was part of a larger plan. And my mother, bless her heart, continued to treat me as though my only value was financial. Each act of obliviousness was fuel for the fire. By the end of that week, I wasn't the same person who had stumbled across that video. I was sharper, calmer, and infinitely more dangerous. They had no idea that their own words had handed me a roadmap for revenge. Every joke, every slight, every laugh at my expense was now a piece of evidence I would use to turn the tables. They thought I was naive, that I would forgive, that I would continue to provide. In truth, I was waiting for the perfect moment to make them see me not as their walking ATM, but as someone they could never manipulate again. The morning after I decided to take control, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. Revenge doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. And mine whispered that the first real move should hit where it hurt most, their wallets, their pride, and their assumptions. For years, they had come to me with fabricated emergencies, exaggerated bills, dramatic sob stories, and every time I believed them because I genuinely thought they needed help. Now, I let every request pile up like wildfire waiting to burn. When my mother texted me asking for a little help with electricity, I responded with a polite apology, claiming I had taken on a personal financial vow to stop unnecessary spending. When my father called pretending his car needed repairs, I didn't pick up. My sister tried her usual emotional manipulation, crying about rent, but I simply replied that I was struggling too. The silence that followed was delicious. Within days, the pressure inside their household grew. They had become so dependent on my money that my absence was like pulling the foundation out from under a shaky house. Arguments erupted among them because each thought the other had somehow offended me. I watched their panic through the family WhatsApp group as they tried to guess what had changed. Then came the real twist. Several relatives, the ones I had quietly spoken to before, began messaging the family with subtle hints that maybe I was distancing myself because I felt undervalued. They didn't know about the video, I hadn't shared that yet. Not publicly, not yet, but the fear in my family's responses made it clear they were sweating. While they scrambled, I planned my next move, one that would strike their public image. My parents loved being admired. They posted inspirational quotes, smiling portraits, and pictures pretending they lived a perfect, loving family life. My sister lived for Instagram validation, always boasting about family support she barely deserved. So I used the same anonymous accounts I'd created earlier and crafted posts inspired by their real conversations. Stories about families who exploited the child that earned the most. Clips that mimicked the exact words they'd used in the video, calling their son a walking ATM, mocking his generosity, laughing at his sacrifices. These posts gained traction fast because people relate to pain more than perfection. Tens of thousands viewed them. My family didn't know the posts were about them, but they felt something threatening in the air. The tension grew so thick I could almost hear it between their messages. My aunt, the accidental whistleblower, was the first to break. She called me late at night, her voice trembling as she begged me to forget that silly video. She tried to convince me it was just playful talk. When I didn't say anything, she began pleading, promising to talk to the others, promising to fix everything. I let her speak until she ran out of breath, then calmly told her I needed time. She didn't know that time was the last thing she had. Meanwhile, I began quietly preparing the ultimate reveal. I organized every moment of my financial support into neat files, dates, receipts, transfers, even the late-night requests they had made while claiming to be in crisis. Each number told a piece of the truth. I had been paying for nearly half of their lives. And they had paid me back with insults. I compiled all of it into a single digital package that I could release when needed. Not publicly, not online, that would make me look bitter. No, I wanted the impact to be precise, personal, and devastating. To make matters worse for them, I suddenly became unavailable. No visits, no calls, not even accidental replies. I didn't block them, I simply vanished. This absence hurt them more than confrontation would. My mother sent long emotional paragraphs. My father tried fake authority. My sister sent voice notes crying dramatically. I watched every message without responding, letting their desperation simmer. By the third week of this silent war, the cracks in their family unity had become canyons. They blamed each other for my distance, accusing, shouting, doubting. My aunt confessed to my parents that she had sent me the video, and the explosion that followed was almost comical. They began fighting over who said what in the recording, who started the conversation, who laughed the loudest. They tried to delete the original video, but it was too late. I had saved it in 3 different places. Finally, when I sensed that their pride was at its weakest point, I crafted a message that would shake them. It wasn't angry, it wasn't emotional. It was just one line, sent to the entire family group chat. I know exactly what you think of me. Then I waited. Within seconds, the group flooded with frantic messages, apologies, excuses, lies, explanations, and desperate attempts to shift blame. I didn't respond. Their panic was the music I had been waiting to hear. The real revenge was about to begin, and they had no idea how far I was willing to go. When I sent that single message to the family group chat, I know exactly what you think of me, I expected panic, but nothing prepared me for the level of desperation that followed. My phone buzzed nonstop for nearly an hour as they tripped over their own excuses. My mother claimed they were just joking, my father insisted it was taken out of context, and my sister swore she didn't even say anything. The funniest part was watching them try to throw each other under the bus without realizing how clearly they exposed their guilt. I read every message calmly, silently, as if their chaos were a movie made for my entertainment. But silence alone wasn't enough anymore. They had laughed at me for years, mocked my generosity, treated me like a bank account instead of family. Now it was time to make them face the truth in a way they could never escape. I took my time crafting the final blow, ensuring it was clean, irrefutable, and unforgettable. I uploaded the incriminating video, the one my aunt had accidentally sent me, along with a carefully organized folder containing every record of the money I had given them over the past decade. Not online, not public. I sent it privately to each relative in the extended family, uncles, cousins, grandparents, people my parents desperately tried to impress. Then I muted my phone and waited. The explosion came fast. Within minutes, relatives started calling my parents, demanding explanations. My mother's carefully curated image shattered instantly. My father, who always boasted about being the responsible head of the family, was exposed as a man who relied on his own son's hard-earned money while insulting him behind his back. My sister, the social media queen, received messages from cousins mocking her for living on ATM money. Even my aunt, who had tried so hard to mend things before I struck, found herself answering for the role she played in the conversation. Their reputations, which they valued more than honesty or kindness, crumbled in front of them. That evening, my parents came to my apartment unannounced. They stood at the door looking smaller than I had ever seen them. My mother's eyes were red, my father's shoulders slumped, and my sister hovered behind them helplessly. For a moment, I felt a strange pang in my chest, a reminder of the family I once thought I had. But the memory of their laughter in that video hardened my resolve. My father spoke first. He tried to apologize, but the words were hollow, shaky, as if he didn't fully understand what he was sorry for. My mother tried to hug me, breaking into tears, calling me her baby, a word that had lost all meaning. My sister stayed quiet, her face pale with embarrassment. I let them speak, let them cry, let them throw words at me in desperation. Then, when they grew quiet, I finally spoke. "I'm done," I said softly. Not angry, not emotional, just done. Those two words hit them harder than the video had. They begged, pleaded, promised to change, but I didn't move. I told them they had made me feel small for years, treated me like a provider instead of a son, used my kindness as currency. I told them that trust, once broken so deeply, couldn't be fixed with tears or excuses. And most importantly, I told them that I wasn't cutting them off out of revenge, I was cutting them off for my own peace. I returned every house key I had, stopped all automatic payments I had been covering for them, blocked their access to my accounts, and made it clear that from that moment forward, I would no longer play the role of rescuer or ATM. The shock on their faces told me they never thought I had the courage to walk away. They thought guilt would anchor me forever. But the truth was liberating. I owed them nothing. Word spread quickly among the relatives. Surprisingly, many supported me. Some even shared their own stories of being exploited by family. The sympathy I received only deepened my parents' humiliation. But I didn't revel in their downfall anymore. I had already gotten my closure. Weeks passed. My life became quieter, lighter. I had money I could finally use for myself, time I could spend without stress, and a heart that no longer carried the weight of unappreciated sacrifice. My family, on the other hand, struggled. Without my financial support, they had to face the consequences of their own irresponsibility. And although part of me wondered if I should feel guilty, I didn't. I felt free. One day, months later, I received a small message from my aunt, the only one who had inadvertently helped reveal the truth. It said, "You did the right thing." For the first time in a long while, I smiled. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was simply the truth breaking free. And in the end, that truth was more powerful than anything I could have planned.